Guys, last night Google released a keynote, and within that, there's one thing that caught everybody by surprise, which is Google AI mode. Let's watch it together and let's see what this is about.
For those who want an end-to-end AI search experience,
End-to-end AI search experience. So let's watch this because I think it's
we are
really
introducing an all-new AI mode. And I'm excited to share that AI mode is coming to everyone in the US starting today.
Today, you'll see how you can ask anything in a more intelligent, agentic, and personalized search.
Okay, so as a head of AI, I can tell you what this means. They've seen what other companies have been doing for a while, like for example Perplexity, in which they've allowed them to essentially scrape a lot of results on the internet and combine all of those and present them to the user in a way that is much more efficient for their search. Now, ChatGPT has been doing this for a while. They've been rolling out all of these new updates in which they've been introducing tools like web search and all that type of stuff. So I just feel that this is probably one of the first times that we have seen Google behind on anything. But are they really behind? And we've seen this with Alpha Evolve. If you don't know what Alpha Evolve is, like, you can go and watch that as well because I think it's really interesting, and it's probably one of the things that people haven't talked about enough for the context of marketing agencies and what this means going forward in terms of search. Let's keep watching because I think it only gets better.
We'll take on your toughest questions. You'll find it as a new tab directly in search or right from your search bar. First, with AI mode, you can ask whatever's on your mind. And as you can see here,
and this is a key difference, right? So one of the things that I've been talking about internally with Google search in general is, like, many years ago when I first discovered the internet, my way of searching was like you will search now. So you will say things to do in Nashville this weekend with friends or whatever, right? And then I very soon realized that that wasn't the most optimal way of searching for things. If I wanted to search for something, like for example, like why am I having this Python bug or C++ bug or whatever, I will normally type Python bug and something that my terminal will tell me that is relevant to that. And I think over the years that's as an outsider, what I've referred to as keyword research and keyword search, and that's why blogs and companies have been trying to optimize for those. But obviously, what happened with ChatGPT and the launch of the transformer architecture is that people moved away from that. People started behaving in a more conversational way towards search engines and search operators. So this feels natural to me. Like going over there and saying, I'm going to be doing this over the weekend, it just feels like the way that search should behave, right?
search gets to work. It generates your response, putting everything together for you.
Okay, so this is the other thing, right? And I keep stopping this. This is exactly what Perplexity was doing. So you will type something in there, and Perplexity will pull it out for you from search. My hottest take out of this is that Perplexity's valuation is going to go in the bin. Because if you have it on Google, and Google owns more data than any other provider probably in the world, why would you go and pay for something like Perplexity when you have these for free?
Including links to content and creators you might not have otherwise discovered, and merchants and businesses with useful information like ratings.
Look, and this is like, search is also changing, right? Like, how can we talk now about averages? Like, there was a post not long ago where I saw somebody on LinkedIn talking about how essentially they were capable of putting people in AA overviews by doing things in SEO. I'm not an SEO person, but I am an AI person, and that's what I do. This tells me that this is hyper-personalized to somebody. So the way in which we track things going forward, the way in which we track things from a marketing perspective is going to change. I don't know what that looks like, how, or whatever, but this is definitely a way in which I think is going to catch a lot of people by surprise.
Search uses AI to dynamically adapt the entire UI.
Dynamically adapt the entire UI, meaning how can you optimize for something that every single time is changed? How do you do that? That's going to be the challenge going forward for marketing agencies.
The combination of text, images, links, even this map, just for your question. And you can follow up conversationally. Soon, AI mode will...
That's the other thing. How many times were you able to continue a conversation or a question on Google search like this? You were able to do it on ChatGPT, and that's the funny thing about all of this. When I mentioned before that I do believe that this is the first time that Google has been behind on something, were they truly behind? Because ChatGPT or Perplexity have validated this idea for them, which is essentially what, if you're starting out, like if you go on to X and you start looking for the indie makers, the one that are starting things from scratch, this is exactly what they talk about. They say you might build something, and tomorrow, if this is relying on any API or any other service that in which you don't hold the data yourself, any of the big providers can put you out of business. And it happened to a lot of people when back in the day when Twitter was Twitter, and you could connect to the Twitter API quite cheaply. The moment that they raised the API costs from literally next to nothing to 100 quid a month just for a few tries, a lot of companies went out. Like they weren't able to basically like continue with the costs that they incurred. And this is the same way. Like this is probably the first time I see this at a big scale where a provider like Google goes and just takes out the competition in one swing. Like honestly, it's my hottest take. Like I don't believe that Perplexity, unless they change the model, I don't believe people are going to keep paying for Perplexity and their valuation is going to go in the bin.
Be able to make your responses even more helpful with personalized suggestions based on your past searches. So now, based on your recent restaurant bookings and search.
Personalized searches based on your previous searches, which means that they've put semantic knowledge or any other type of memory into the system, allowing it to continuously hyper-personalize what you are searching for and the way in which you're searching for things, right? So I do believe, and this is perhaps the second hottest take out of this, that the more information you have about the personas that you're trying to target, and the more information you have about how they behave online, is going to dictate how you need to tackle from a strategic point of view what you need to do from a marketing point of view. And this is something that, like, the strategic thinking is going to be, again, the most important thing, right? It's like planning. When you're trying to do something, you normally plan for things. Because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? That's what they say. This is exactly the same thing. If you want to do anything online with your business, you're going to have to spend a lot of time just planning what is it that you want to do.
It gets that you prefer outdoor seating. And since you subscribe to those gallery newsletters, it suggests some cool art exhibits to check out while you're in town.
And look at this. This is the other thing, right? Imagine that I have a condition, perhaps. I'm allergic to something. And the system remembers that. So I don't need to put it into the query, meaning that that query is hyper-personalized to me if memory truly works in the way that they say it works. It's just a game changer. The moment that this is fully released to the world is a game changer.
Next, for questions when you want an even more thorough response, we're bringing deep research capabilities.
Deep research wasn't even part of the conversation till now, right? So just anybody tell me how Perplexity has any sort of possibility in this market. Just anybody.
Capabilities into AI mode. Deep search uses the same query fan-out technique you just heard about, but multiplied. It can issue dozens or even hundreds of searches on your behalf. It reasons across
asynchronous parallel computing on multiple searches to give you the most comprehensive response. Anybody in AI has their own sort of deep search model. Unless you really wanted something extremely thorough, you wouldn't use Perplexity's API. A lot of people will do it just for the simplicity of it, but internally ourselves, we run a smaller version of deep research that allows us to just scroll pages and basically get the content out of them. This is, it makes it redundant for me. Like, if they open an API in which I can query this, and in most cases, like for example with Google Ads, Google Search Console and all those type of things, those are for free. As in, I don't need to pay as long as I don't go through a threshold, right? So if I'm trying to optimize things, unless a client or anybody has millions or hundreds of thousands of things to do in parallel, I don't have to pay anything to any other provider API, right? The ecosystem goes back to Google.
All those disparate pieces of information to create an expert-level, fully cited report in just minutes. It includes links to the web throughout, so you can easily explore and take action.
And ground it. So when people ask about grounding, when does grounding happen? Does it happen before or after generating the response? Doesn't matter. The user has got the last final word on this.
Complex analysis and data visualization is coming this summer for sports and financial questions.
There we go. Like another feature that wasn't there before. So when we're talking about dynamically generated UIs, imagine that you are essentially like providing some data into the world through your web page. Look at this. This, again, is something that we need to plan for. If you have any sort of reporting that you provide as a service in your company and so on, how do you optimize for this in a way that you or your data is selected to appear over here?
So I'm a huge baseball fan. And lately, there's been a lot of buzz about these new torpedo bats. I've been digging in on whether it's making a real impact on the game. And now, I'm wondering what the numbers say. So I'll ask, show the batting average and on-base percentage for this season and last.
Look how he's querying this. Like, he's talking. It's talking, right? Let's move on, because after this, it's probably more of the same thing. And there are a couple of features that I want to touch on before we move on. So we need to get to, it's not this is still data, search live. Right. So over here, which is another interesting thing, especially for Alexas and so on.
All right. Ready, Anya? Ready, Adi?
Yep.
Okay.
Are you ready for your science experiment?
Yeah.
Can you guess which experiment I'm trying to do? I have hydrogen peroxide and dish soap and yeast.
You're likely going to make elephant toothpaste.
This is multimodal search. So now you can plug in your phone, Gemini, or whatever, however they want to call this, right? And you can talk to it, and it can see the world, and it's fully multimodal, meaning that any of the Gemma models perhaps are plugged into this, combined with Gemini 2.5 Pro. If they don't have even a Gemini 3 plugged into this already, and it's not publicly available or released, right? 2.5 Pro, it's, to me at least, the best model out there to do pretty much anything, from strategic thinking to coding to writing to anything, right? This is huge. Like, there are lots of people. Like, imagine that you're running this with your kids, like you're saying right now. Now, let's follow this along, because there's also some ethical considerations to be had after this, right?
Which one of these strawberries is ready to eat?
I'm trying to get this remote to work.
It looks like someone is ready to get their hands dirty and plant a green bean seedling. Pump it to about 50 pounds per square inch, but don't go over 90 psi.
I mix.
This is like, all of this, it just tells me, like, it's going to be your copilot in life as well, right? So if you start having all these things, if your kids show on camera, like, I'm not sure how it works, but we know how these big companies think, right? What's stopping them from getting profiles of the faces of my kids, my family, the environment that I live in? They already have the geolocation data of where I am on the world. What's stopping this from being like a surveillance system in real time? For example, if people are on their phones all the time, they're recording TikToks, Snapchats, and all that type of stuff. What's stopping people if they start using the system from allowing Google, for example, to just harvest the most amount of personal data ever? They already have our data from Gmail, calendars, so on, geolocation data from maps. This is the next iteration, right? Google never released a social media platform. Now they don't have to, probably, because they have all of the social media profiles that they want just looking at this.
The baking soda. What do I do next?
It looks like someone tried dipping a finger into the cinnamon water.
What should I do to make this even more impressive?
You could try using a different catalyst.
Look at the speed of the TTS, right? Or the other way around, STT, speech to text. Sorry, text to speech, the first one that I said. Look at all of that. Like, it's just, you just cannot compete in terms of hardware. Like, the amount of servers and GPUs that you need to have running for concurrent capabilities on this, it's insane. Once Google gets serious about something, it's so difficult to compete with them, because they just have more resources than you. You need to play the game in such a smart way. And even with that, they can still sweep you out of the floor in one pass.
Potassium iodide is a good option.
Whoa, why is it doing that? A ripe strawberry will also have a sweet smell. The green leaves at the top should look fresh and vibrant.
The chemical reaction is
Let's move on onto the next one. I think I've given you a teaser already of what's coming in there. Let's look at what happens with shopping. Look at this.
I have a light gray couch, and I'm looking for a rug to brighten the room. Search dynamically generates a browsable mosaic of images and some shoppable products, personalized just for me. I have 4 active kids, and they like to have friends over. Search understands this involves plenty of messes. It recommends a low pile and washable rug made from durable materials, along with some products that I can shop.
Okay, that's not revolutionary. It's not much different than what you currently have through shopping. The only difference is that you have the power of proper search on the back of it, right? Let's see what happens for personal shopping.
I want a few new dresses for summer. Search gave me some great options, but now I'm faced with the classic online shopping dilemma. I have no clue how these styles will look on me. So we are introducing a new try-on feature that will help you
Try-on feature, right? A few weeks ago, people were talking about how ChatGPT was working on a Shopify plugin. Google, look at them, like, they are essentially like killing that feature away as well. Like when they say, look at this.
I click on the button to try it on. It asks me to upload a picture, which takes me to my camera roll.
That's just a model, right?
I have many pictures here. I'm going to pick one that is full length and a clear view of me, and off it goes. And you can see it here.
Look at that. She's here with that dress. Like, I don't know if you've seen, but in the AI community, a lot of people have been working on interior design applications where you can send a picture of your living room, for example, and with certain sofas and so on, you can just completely redecorate your room and give you indications on how to make it like super cool, etc. They already have this feature. I'm not sure why they haven't released something similar in terms of when she was putting the example of the rug. Can you just upload a picture of your living room so it demos that product in there? This is huge. Like, again, ChatGPT might release that feature on Shopify to allow purchases directly through the UI. But this is way better. Like, on a personalized level, this is 10 times better.
How it really gives me a feel for how this dress might look on me. And I'm going to click this thing to track price. I pick my size. Then I have to set a target price. I'm going to set it to about $50. And tracking is happening.
And now it gives you a tracking feature.